Most of the time, I think I am a pretty optimistic person. I just have a sunny personality. Sometimes Katie says I'm too cheerful. But I think I'm realistic. I'm not a Pollyanna. I realize that the world changes and I have to change with the world. I mean, I can be flexible and realistic. But lately, the world seems dark to me. It seems like that things I've taken for granted are disappearing. The values and the ideals that I taught are being compromised. Honor and dignity and duty are being replaced by self-interest and intimidation and shamelessness. The institutions that I thought were so strong seem to be crumbling. And the world order of the last 80 years seems to be going away. So it seems like a dark time to me. Maybe I shouldn't be so surprised. There have been many dark times in history. This is not the first time this has happened. Jesus lived in a dark time as well. In Jesus' day, there was oppression and intimidation everywhere. The Roman government ruled with a heavy hand, and the religious establishment wasn't much better. Most people were poor, and they didn't have much hope for a better life. There was unrest, rumors of revolution, and it was a dark time. And that, I think, is why the story of the Transfiguration is so important. In this story, Jesus takes Peter and James and John, the disciples, up to the mountain to pray. This is not unusual for Jesus. Often he goes to a deserted place or a place where there's no one, and he takes the time to pray. But this time when Jesus is praying, the disciples see him transfigured in his light. His face is shining and his clothes are glowing, they're dazzling white. And he's transfigured in glory. And then the disciples see two men, Moses and Elijah, standing there with Jesus. Moses represents the law of the Old Testament. Elijah represents the prophets of the Old Testament. So the Transfiguration shows Jesus as the culmination of everything that has gone before. He's the fulfillment of the law and the prophets. Peter is petrified, and he doesn't know what to say. When he's able to speak, he blurts out, "Lord, let us make 3 dwellings for you here. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He doesn't know what he's saying. What he's trying to do is sort of freeze the moment and erect a monument and make it into a postcard. You know, something that he can understand and something he can control. But then they're overshadowed by a cloud, the mystery of God. And a voice from the cloud says, "This is my beloved Son, my chosen. Listen to him." It's almost the exact same words that Jesus heard when he was baptized back at the beginning of his ministry. So these two events, the baptism of Jesus and the transfiguration of Jesus, are like the bookends of his life, the bookends of his ministry. And in the church, we always remember the baptism of Jesus at the beginning of the season of Epiphany, and we always remember the Transfiguration at the end of the season of Epiphany, to remember these revealings, these revelations of the character of Jesus. Well, the vision ends, and the disciples see Jesus alone, and they go back down the mountain with him, and they don't say anything, because they don't yet know how to process this amazing experience. Well, the transfiguration of Jesus is often thought of as sort of a proof that Jesus is divine. God showed Jesus on the mountain to prove that Jesus is God, and that's what the transfiguration is about. And that's true. But I think of the transfiguration more as a revealing of Jesus' true nature. Transfiguration isn't the same thing as transformation. When you're transformed, you're changed from one thing into another. But in transfiguration, what you already are is revealed to others. Your inner nature is revealed and you're seen for who you truly are. It's as if we could strip away all the outer parts of Jesus, the clothing and the flesh and the bones, and see just nothing but the pure soul. That's what transfiguration is. So when Jesus was transfigured in glory, what the disciples saw was a pure soul. They saw him as pure and sinless, a holy person. They saw him as one who speaks the truth without wavering. They saw him as one with perfect integrity. A human being, but a human being who was filled with God. We need that. We need that badly. We need to know that there is such a thing as a pure soul. That it's possible to live without cynicism. That it's possible to let God shine in your life. That it's possible to hold your values and not compromise them. Jesus shows us in the transfiguration something beautiful and noble. When you read Jesus' words in the Gospels, you realize that here is a person who was perfectly consistent in everything he said and did. He never said one thing and did the opposite. He talked about love, and he acted with love. He talked about the poor, and he lived among the poor. He talked about generosity, and he practiced generosity. He's perfectly consistent. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And by that, I think he meant that he was willing and able to tell the truth. Just tell the truth. How many people can do that perfectly? So just knowing that there was a person such as Jesus gives me hope. Gives me hope that human beings can live with integrity. Jesus did. I know he paid a price for it. He was crucified by the powers that be because they were threatened by someone who would bring a light into the darkness. But it gives me hope just knowing that Jesus lived. When I was a boy, I was in Scouts. My whole family was in Scouts. My dad worked for the Boy Scouts of America. My mother was a den mother and a Girl Scout leader. And all of us kids were in Scouts. And I loved being a Boy Scout. I loved the camp outs and the merit badges and all of that. And looking back on it, I realized how much it formed me. You know, I knew the Boy Scout oath. I promised to do my best. I promised to do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, and to help other people at all times. And I know that in my life I haven't always kept the Scout oath. I haven't always done my duty. I haven't always kept the Scout law. I haven't always helped other people. But that oath helped form me. It gave me something to try to keep, an ideal. So some values that were important that I knew about. Just knowing that there are such things as duty and honor and integrity is important. Just knowing that Jesus Christ existed and showed us how to be a human being is important. In a dark world, we need to see the light of Christ. One of the early church fathers named Irenaeus said, "The glory of God is a human being fully alive." That's what Jesus showed us. Jesus showed us a light that shines in the darkness of our world.